Hello and welcome to the Service MVP podcast. And my name is Joe Crisara, America's Service Sales Coach. And we are here today with Richard Astacio, who is an entrepreneur who has grown a business in the heating and cooling and plumbing trade, or actually the heating and plumbing trade, he said. And he has grown that company from startup to $33 million with the help of some acquisitions. Richard, welcome to our show here today.
Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you, Joe, for having me.
Well, the reason we're having Richard here is he can tell us, how can you grow your revenue and how do you grow your sales year after year? A lot of people are interested in either growing revenue for two reasons. One is either to sell the business to a private equity to, build it. And Richard just did that. And then another reason to build the revenue is just to make it more profitable if you want to keep the business. Richard, thank you for coming on here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about how you got started and what's the backstory as to how you got involved with the trades and all the rest of it?
Sure, thank you. So started the trade in 1998 as a plumber. And then in 2004, decided to go on the journey and start my own business. And I took a home equity line. I think it was like $40,000 equity line on my house, sold my little RX-7 that I had, and then started the business and grew it through the recession 2008 with a couple of acquisitions, one in 2012, one in 2018 or so, and all that stuff. So that's kind of like my journey.
Okay, and so
high level view.
but it's a lot to hang on to as you're integrating new businesses and making sure your own business. So what are the keys to continuing to grow revenue and be profitable, even though you're kind of shaking things up as you acquire new businesses? Tell us a little bit about that, because even if you're not acquiring businesses, there's still a key to growing revenue, and that's what we're talking about here today. So can you give us what do you think the first key for a person or a person who owns a company in the service trades is to grow revenue? What do you think to make sure that profitable revenue too, not just anybody can grow revenue, but profitable revenue is even more important? Can you tell us about that? What's the first key you think is to that success?
Sure. So, and some of this, it's like there's a dichotomy, because as business owners, obviously the more revenue we show, the more taxes, right? So as business owners, we do run a lot of stuff to the business, and you try to have as low as profit as that. But if you're looking to sell the company, you really got to make sure your books are clean and you don't run any personal expenses to there. Just pay yourself out, so it just keeps it clean, because you're going to get your EBITDA margin down. But the most important thing for growing year over year is creating a budget. We have to create a budget, and also, depending on what size structure your business is, different department has their own budget, KPIs, and we coach to those and all that stuff. So that's probably the most important thing. But even before that, you should know your break even. I know a lot of small contractors, they're out there just, they're worrying about, hey, what's Joe Crisara's charging? Hey, what is Richard Aasoe charging? It doesn't matter, right? I don't care what everybody else is charging. It's my overhead. So I got to know what my overhead is, what my break even is, and then from there, how much profit do I want to make? And then you build from there also. So I think just knowing those numbers, that's one. And then two, creating a budget and shooting towards that budget every year.
I hear a lot of people say that, shooting toward it, but the courage to stick with that budget, that to me seems like the key to profit, right? Tell me about, is it just plenty of temptations that people have every day, the emergencies that take place or new technologies that emerge, or, there's all kinds of reasons to throw money at problems in the service business. How did you get the courage to stick with that budget and to make sure that you had enough courage to make sure you got that? That's the part. I think the getting the numbers. I think a lot of people are getting that now. I think it's I do agree. There's a huge uninformed group of people who don't know it. But for the ones that do know it, give us some tips. Having the budget is true, but sticking to that budget, or doing better than the budget, and improving on the budget, performing better than your budget is projecting. Tell us how you come up with the courage to do all that.
So courage, for me, we all have egos. I have a big ego, and I'm always looking towards winning and striving and hitting marks and all that stuff. But one of the components that helped me out is implementing tools, right? So we all have our weaknesses or areas that we need improvement. But to me, the best people, they implement a tool that can help them with whatever they're struggling with. So one of the things we did was, and it's as simple as that, is a daily huddle. So every morning, all the management teams, we get together and we look at yesterday's numbers. Now, we don't dwell on it, but we look at, okay, why do we fell short? What do we need to make sure it doesn't happen again? Again, you don't want to beat somebody over the head, but we just look at the data and we learn from the mistakes and how to implement it and make sure we continue successful. So, and then we look at today's current, what the budget is for today, what do we need to hit that? And then we have each department managers kind of, they commit what they're committing to, and us, and depending. Now, sometimes we can have a rash of somebody calls out sick and all that stuff. So that's, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 people calling out technicians, that's going to hurt your chance of hitting the budget and all that stuff. But knowing why and what we can do to make sure we're not missing the budget and all that stuff. So that's kind of the advice I got.
Good. Well, just so making it transparent, so because you're not going to get there on your own, you're going to make it part of the team's problem. The team's got this challenge, not just Richard. You're sharing it with the team and make sure the team is informed of the numbers they need to hit and making sure that they get the tools and training and things they need to hit. Does that sound right?
100%. And obviously, the manager also, they're incentivized, right? If they hit their quarterly markings, they get certain bonus. So also there's incentives to that, but it's not just the budget. It's just providing great service, and everybody's looking for that. So that's important. But also there's a nice carrot at the end of the stick saying, hey, if we achieve these goals, we provide good service, we are accomplishing and hitting these benchmarks so we could get our bonuses.
Cool. What's the next thing? A second tip to be able to achieve that growth in revenue. What do you think of that would be?
Transparency, good communication, and you got to treat your people well, but also being able to have the difficult conversation. So one of the things that helped me along the way is having that cadence. So I have my managers, I had weekly meetings, but when we were smaller in the team, we would have every day I would have a one-on-one with a technician and all this and having that conversation. And now you're building that rapport, you're building that relationship. So you're not going to hear from, hey, Joe walks into my office, hey, Rich, I'm leaving. I got $1 more down the street. No, because we're having that dialogue constantly. And then we have that open door policy. They know every month or every week, whatever the cadence is, you got to keep it and be consistent. And I've done it. Let's just say, for example, Joe, I'm traveling. Right. And I'm traveling to an event, or I'm going to one of your training, and I will still hold that one-on-one, but I'll actually commission, hey, Joe, can we do it on a Zoom? I'm traveling. I'm going to be in the airport. Do you mind if we do it on a Zoom, or you want to reschedule? So either way, I've always been consistent with that. So just having that communication with the employees, that cadence, that one-on-one time, and then setting goals, right? So those we're also setting goals, 100-day goals, and then kind of checking in on them and making sure how they're accomplishing what they are or what are they struggling with. So I would say communication, and I know communication is broad, but communicating with your team and setting the expectation, and also being able to have that difficult conversation when the time has come, right? We all need to have that difficult conversation. And that's one of my strengths, is being open. Just, what you see is what you get. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to try to achieve it together.
The transparency is the key, because this way everybody can see if we're winning or losing. I think sometimes people suffer in silence when they're losing, or they have victories and they don't explain to the team what the benefit to the team is with the victory either. They act. I think when a team wins and they see the ownership making more money, nobody explains what that means to the employees, or there's not a system in place where the employees also benefit from that. I guess that's a great way of treating the employees, rewarding them for the effort that they're making, and when they do achieve the goals and things like that, right?
Yeah, and explaining the why. A lot of things, sometimes we just tell people to do it, but you got to understand, if I'm going to get you to buy into it, Joe, I need to tell you the why and explain the story. Here, this is why we're doing it, and kind of hopefully get you to understand the thought process on why we're doing this. Even though you might not like it, but you know what? I don't agree with it. but I understand it and it makes sense. Let's move forward. So explaining the why also is important.
When you're growing a business like that, do you have sort of like a company value statement or something that does explain the why in a more broad sense that you can point to some kind of a thing that you put out there to say, here's why we're in business, the reason why why our community benefits from our business, why do our employees benefit from the business, why do vendors benefit from dealing with our company? What are some of the common things you would say would be out there if you could give us some inside information as to what are some of the common values you think that are benefits to the community, the employees, and to vendors? What do you think?
So great topic. And do you know Jack Tester?
I do, yeah. He's a good friend, actually. I just met him in Columbus, Ohio. He was
All right.
met him over at Aaron O'Hanlon's, not O'Hanlon, Aaron Gaynor's place in at the Eco Plumbers in Columbus,
Oh, that's
Ohio.
right.
So yeah.
That's right. So I met him a few years ago, and we were working through my mission and vision statement. I wanted to redefine, and he helped me through that. And he challenged me, and he's like, Rich, I'm not writing this for you. You're going to write this. And it kind of challenged me to think about it and all that stuff. So I think coming up, if somebody, obviously we'll give criteria, and he coached me through it. So creating a mission statement that is on the website and a vision statement that the team, everybody buys in. But the only way I would do a little different is, if let's just say I'm coming into a new company, I would try to get the buy-in and try to get the whole department, whether managers, depending how big the companies, try to get buy-in with them and have them believe that statement. Because I could create a statement, but if you feel like you're not part of it, Joe, you might not recite it, you might not live it, you might not breathe it. And we want everybody to live it, breathe it, and really truly believe in it. So having the team input on that on those statements, on the mission statement, on this vision statements, and then core values. Yeah, so in our building, we kind of had that on the wall, integrity. And that's one of the things always pride ourselves with is honesty, right? Whether if we screw something up with a client, I used to tell my employees, just admit it. Because what we don't want to do is get caught up lying. And then now, once you lose integrity, how hard is it to get that integrity back? So integrity, honesty, all of that stuff. So I had that in the wall posted. I'm one of these guys that I'm big on motivational. So if you come into my office, you see a whole bunch of stuff that I got to award, and it constantly reminds me every day. Even if you're falling off track, you look at that. That's a reminder. Okay, this is why I'm doing it, and all that stuff. So just creating that environment, and that all these mission and vision statements are posted somewhere, and same thing with your values and your core values. I can't come up with them. You got to come up with them in your team, what's important to you. But that's a good exercise to for the team and the manager, again, depending what size company it is.
I think involving the team sounds like a big aspect of it too there, which
Yeah, big time.
isn't just say I came up with our values and you throw it at the team and hope they follow it, right? That's not going to work.
Yeah, no. So funny you said that. Quick little story. I read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I just read it, like, I don't know, a year ago. And one of the things I got out of it was the vision and the vision statement, but for the family. And I'm like, and I kind of had like an aha moment. I'm like, all these stuff I believe in, everything that I've done in my business, I would have done this in my work, in my home, how much of a better father and a husband I would have been. So as a family, 6 months ago, we created a family vision statement, and I got my boys, and I got a 26-year-old and a 20. They were like, come on, Dad, are you serious? What's going on here? So we went through that exercise and all that stuff, but I got their buy-in, and it was a great exercise. Everybody chimed in, and then now that's ours because they believe it. And let's just say if we run astray a little bit, we can always look at that, read it. Hey, this is the promises we said we're going to do. We're going to make sure, and we could just come back and veer course and all that stuff. So,
yeah, we're just walking the walk. Like I said, I think it goes back to the original theme I mentioned, which is the courage to keep walking the walk, even though it's a lot of temptation that takes us back off track. And I would say the darker path, which is really not effective, sometimes is more seductive and draws us down those places away from where we want to go. Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure, 100%.
So, what's the third thing? We got the third thing here. We're moving on to the third tip. We got some extra time here, so go ahead and tell us. What do you think is another key that you think is important? I think you mentioned it before when we started, when I had a little prep about getting your team trained and things like that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I think you mentioned about training your team and things like that. Make sure that the team to invest in the time it takes to train
Yeah.
people.
So
Tell
that's
us about that part.
Yeah, so that's, and I found even, there's some stuff going around lately. Oh, it's hard to get Gen Z or millennials, this and that. I was luckily I never had any issues finding employees. And then if you treat your employees well, they become advocates for you. So they're out there, they're constantly recruiting and they're speaking to their cousins, their family, hey, this is a great place to work with. So, but training, investing in training, technical training for the technical side of the people, for the technicians. So we used to do it like once a month in the morning, one for plumbing, one for HVAC. The electrical had their own. Having speakers coming in, having manufacturers. So a lot of what I do is we contact my manufacturers, and they're always looking to bring in and teach a new product. So they'll bring either a mobile kind of a trailer with boilers or just getting them involved, and they come in and they do a training as well. And then the same thing as far as the office side of it, there's a lot of training, right? There's a lot of training for CSRs, for dispatchers, and a lot of it, it's all mindset, right? As a CSR, like I love the CSRs, but I don't think I could be a CSR for a long time because you're constantly on the phone, this and that, and who's complaining, this, So just having training even for them, where there's a mindset type of training. And one of the things that we speak about is, when do your day start? Well, your day starts last night by getting a good night's rest, right? So just even having that time, because if I go to sleep at midnight and I got to come into work at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, I'm probably going to be a little tired and all that, especially if I do that consistently. So just having that and having that type of training available for them, that has made a big deal. And for the most part, I don't think I've ever met an employee who doesn't want to become better.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right. I think no matter what generation, I think the training part of it. I mean, let's put it this way. I don't care. People say different generations may respond to training differently, but I think every generation, if you look at the choice between being untrained and uninformed and being frustrated, or being trained to have the answer when you're put in front of your client, not being embarrassed. I think every generation would choose to be more prepared and feel good about their job rather than being unprepared at the moment of crisis when it takes place. And you're untrained for that crisis and you don't know what to do. I think that spans every generation. What do you think on that, Richard? Is that
Agree. And
fair?
yeah, and you have to make sure they're engaged, right? So one of the things, I coached soccer for a long time, for over a decade, and one of the things I learned at an early age, every player is motivated differently, right? Who likes to be coddled? Who likes the tough love? Who likes this? So same thing as employees. So as with the field technicians, they're all a little different. It's our responsibility to how to get them engaged and motivate them and change our tactics and our style to make sure we get them engaged and all that stuff. And same thing with the curriculum, getting feedback. Hey, what do you guys want to see? What do you want to see training? So not all of my ideas or my managers is feedback from the field staff and say, hey, we want to work more on this and all that stuff. And then make it, obviously watching for a trades guy. So I'm a trades guy. Watching slideshows for half an hour, to me, that's not engaging. I need to be messing with my hands. So try to mix it up a little bit with, hey, we're watching a slide and now we're applying the theory by hand. So we'll break up into small groups and we'll have working equipment and then we'll try it there. So just changing it up and seeing what engages them.
Wow. So you built, acquired other businesses and then sold it all. And it got the $33 million, I think it was, you said. What's next on the horizon for Richard? What do you think? What's your next, where are you moving toward next? By the way, thanks for sharing some of these great tips for people who are out there right now who just own a business, who are just interested in learning more. But tell us, what's the next chapter for you, Richard? What do you think? What's the next thing you're going to go on to?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? Is how to reinvent myself and all that stuff. But I feel like I have some unfinished business, so I am looking to acquire a company in Jersey. So that's hopefully within 2 to 3 weeks or so. I do have, I'm gonna be transparent, I do have a non-compete that I cannot work in Connecticut and New York. So those
Hmm.
states are off the table for the next couple of years. But the plan
Hmm.
is to start in Jersey, acquiring a company, and then from there growing and establish a multi-location business on a smaller scale. That's kind of my plan.
Good, good, good. So, what is the unfinished business? What exactly is unfinished? Well, tell us, give us a little peek onto that.
So
What's the unfinished aspect of things?
So Joe, listen. So I'm gonna be fully transparent. I come from humbly beginnings. Born in Queens in the Bronx. Was on public assistance when I was growing up. So when COVID came and that we had that little mini shutdown,
Hmm.
it was scary. I think I blew through $600,000 in payroll, and that was scary. And it's not like I had millions and millions of dollars in the bank account. It's not like I had mom and dad that could help me bail out. So that really kind of wrung me a little bit. And I'm like, and this opportunity came up where I could partner up with Sela and all that stuff, and also kind of prepare my future and put a little nest egg and all that stuff. So that was kind of it. But then I was also so wrapped up in my world that I didn't know about the Joe Crisaras. I didn't know about Nexstar. I didn't know about all these resources that are available to us. And again, I was just grinding. So the last 3 years, I'm able to get my head out of the ground. Now I'm looking ahead and all that stuff. So just gonna do a different version, different twist. Obviously we want to make money, but I truly enjoy the tradesman, and because I was a tradesman, I still am a tradesman, and I want to provide an environment where people grow and continue and pushing them beyond what they feel comfortable. And that's kind of like what I love. I ran marathons and I do this here and there, constantly pushing myself where I'm struggling. Like, Rich, why are you doing this? Like, it's a Saturday morning, you're in pain, just stop. But no, that you just want to continue pushing yourself. So that's what I'm doing. I want to give back to the community. One of my dreams was to elevate the trades, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on. And I read some posts. Everybody's kind of bad mouthing the PE groups, this and that, and all this, the influx of money. I'm like, you know what, guys, just embrace it. They're actually professionalizing the environment for us. Our industry for us. And to me, I love competition, and let the best man win. Right? If you're beating me, Joe, I'm not gonna be mad at you. I gotta look myself in the mirror. Okay,
Hmm.
so I gotta do a better job. If Joe's beating me, that means I'm failing in one part of my business that I need to do a better job and all that stuff. So just give back to the community and help elevate all of us. There's plenty of money for all of us to make. Obviously, we know the average age of the tradesmen, they're in the 60s, and the people coming in there's not a lot of influx, and then certain states are hard to get licenses and apprenticeship. So even that. Hopefully, I would like at one point to get some type of legislator lawyer and help change some of the laws and all that. So I'd like to see it enacted in the United States. Hey, I'm not saying get rid of the apprenticeship, but some of these rules are kind of astronomical to get somebody to get a license.
That's
So
great. Well, definitely, definitely elevating the trades is something well worth it. And I think you're right. I think the competition, when we have competition, it makes us automatically run faster. It goes back to the days where if you're a lion in the jungle, and you wake up every morning, you have to eat, you have to compete against other predators to be able to hunt down your food. And so it's like, but it inevitably makes everybody stronger, because now we know we have to get up every morning and do something to compete. And I think if both of us are running the race, and I'm trying to keep up with you, or you're trying to keep up with me, it makes both of us run faster and stronger and more leaner, I think, too. So I think that's something that is a great thing about competition. I think the contractors that don't have competition, who are more entitled, those are the ones who are kind of the fat cats who sit around waiting for the food to come in. And when the changes happen, they're unprepared for those changes. That's what I feel, Richard. What do you think of that?
yeah, agree. And then when the tough times come, when a recession is coming, whether we're in one, when one come next year, eventually it's gonna come. And that's when I think that's when I earn my money, because now you start, you got to capitalize on every opportunity. So every phone call you get, you got to treat that customer that like they're number one. Don't assume that there's going to be another lead and all that stuff. So just taking that urgency, right? Because that's what it is urgency, and making sure you capitalizing on every opportunity. Yeah, totally agree.
All right, Richard, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. Everybody, look for this episode on the Service MVP podcast on Apple, Spotify, and any other platform you may choose to see. Richard, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Joe. It's my pleasure.